The following is a Spirit Street production.
Well, Clemson has jumped into the fray with their lawsuit against the ACC. Man, I think with the Clemson lawsuit, it's a little bit different. They're just looking for a little bit of clarification. We're going to talk to Cory Fravel today, who covers Clemson for 24/7 Sports, and just kind of dive in and see what Clemson thinks about all of this. Today, this is the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
All right, welcome everybody to Big 12 Insiders. Again, this is Brien Hanley. Today we got Cory Fravel from 24/7 who covers Clemson. Cory, are you there? You there, Cory?
I am. I'm here.
All right. How's it going, my man?
Pretty good, man. What about you?
I am doing all right. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So, we're just kind of diving into this Clemson lawsuit and what exactly is going on with that. A lot of people on the outside looking in may not know exactly, what the parameters are or what they're doing. Is it the same lawsuit as Florida State? From my understanding, Clemson is looking to try to get some clarification on maybe the grant of rights and some of the language that's in all of this. Kind of give people that may not know exactly what's going on with Clemson's lawsuit.
Yeah, you pretty much said it right there. I think it's to kind of investigate the grant of rights, and kind of dig behind and see exactly what that means. You know what I mean? And it seems to be the ACC is kind of holding that secret from Florida State and Clemson,
Right.
Which is interesting. You would have a group of schools like that would sign something that you can't see, and I'm sure there's stuff you and I don't know, right? But
Sure.
it does seem kind of strange from the outside. And I think the other thing you look at too is not just Clemson, but Florida State. I think, I don't think people like this and lawyers like this would waste their time if they didn't feel there was something there, right?
Correct. That's kind of what I've said from the very beginning is, this whole grant of rights thing, I don't think the school would invest the money that it's going to take. They're paying lawyers. I don't think they would do that if they didn't believe that they had a chance to win this thing, because to me, everybody signed it, but we all know how lawyers can be. And if there's a contract, if there's a way that they can get out of it, they're going to do it, and they're going to do their research first before they file a lawsuit. They're not just going to file a lawsuit and then try to dig something up. It just doesn't work that way. Not when you're dealing with something like this, and not with credible lawyers anyway.
Right.
And that's my whole thing with this is, so Clemson kind of differentiate between the two, because it seems like Florida State just wants out. That's kind of their lawsuit. They are looking to get out of the ACC no matter what. They want out of here. From the lawsuit anyway, it doesn't necessarily seem that that's Clemson's whole claim with this, or am I wrong about that?
Well, I think they're just kind of going about it different ways. Clemson wants to find out from A to Z everything that it entails.
Mm-hmm.
Again, kind of if you scoot back, whether you're from a Clemson or FSU perspective, like we almost already have a blueprint for this when Maryland left. I mean, I think they paid 58% of whatever the grant of rights was then.
Right.
Obviously, different numbers, but there's always that. You could just go and say, hey, well, the precedent's here already for somebody to leave. So to say that you can't leave, I'm not a lawyer, but that's already out there. Maryland's already negotiated something down. So I think Clemson wants to investigate and see what exactly each thing says, why there isn't more money to be had, and what's in their best interest.
Right. From a Clemson standpoint, I got to think that they're kind of in the same boat as Florida State is. and you mentioned it, why isn't there more money that can be given to us based on what we bring? You know, in other conferences, especially in the Big 12 particular, for a while, Texas and Oklahoma, they were getting more money than what other schools were getting.
Right.
And so I think Florida State and Clemson may look at that and say, hey, how come we can't do the exact same thing? And let me ask you this. Let's just say the ACC, because I think the ESPN is going to have to come back and renegotiate all of this if anything is going to change.
Sure.
If that happens, does Clemson say, okay, if you renegotiate and give us more, is that what they're actually looking for? Or do they just want to go?
You know, that's such a hush-hush thing. I don't think anyone really knows on either side unless you're in the room with the lawyers in the school.
Right.
I think it doesn't take a genius to figure out that they're looking at the money the Big Ten and the SEC are getting per school, and they're doing the same things. Why aren't we getting that? And what's the specific reasons why? So I think that's more or less what any of these schools that want to leave are going to be looking at, you know?
Right. Yeah. I like that aspect is just the transparency. And Clemson is looking for the transparency, which I would think everybody else is looking for the transparency, but I don't think they have let's call it the cachet that a Clemson has to be able to get the transparency that they're all looking for. They're just having Clemson do the work for them. And maybe, and I've mentioned this too, Cory, that behind the scenes, I think some of these other schools are lending out their lawyers to help Clemson, even though Clemson's in the forefront. I think there's other schools out there that I don't know if North Carolina, but maybe they are. North Carolina, an NC State, a Virginia Tech, Virginia, that are lending their resources to Clemson saying, hey, find this out for us. Thank you for taking the lead, but find this out for us, and then we can all work together, and maybe this thing goes away. Maybe we can get more money.
There's been, rumors, I'm sure, various ones of us have heard. I know I've heard whispers about that. I think at the end of the day, when you get into court, I mean, surely the judge is going to want to know why you can't share what it is they're getting paid on. And I don't think it's a matter of like, you've heard the ACC, you can't take this out of the room, whatever, but it doesn't even seem like it's anything that they can study other than in a room, which seems kind of strange when you're talking about the financial impacts, that these football programs have on the schools. Like, if you go back to 2015, 2014, when Clemson really started on their run, look at campus, drive through today, the economic impact football has had. Same with Alabama. They built medical schools. It's a lot of money, man. Yeah. It's a big deal. It feeds professors, not only the athletic department, but it goes all the way through the school. So I think you have to be transparent, right? It's not like $1,000 we're talking about here. It's millions of dollars.
Right. Yeah. I can remember just from me, I went to Kansas State and played back in 97, 98 is when I went there. I drive through now, granted, that's 25, 26 years ago, but I even remember going back 8 years after I had left there. It was a totally different place.
Right.
And we're not talking about the same kind of money in 2007 that we are today. The money is incredible. So, yes, you are absolutely right. Being transparent and just for the conference to be transparent, I think that's the part that a lot of people, Cory, are just like, really? Why aren't you telling everybody what's going on? Like, what are you hiding? Like, how much money is out there that's available? And I think that's what it is. I think there's more money that actually might be available that they're not getting and they don't have access to. Is that kind of Clemson's thinking a little bit?
Again, not being in the room with the law, you hear whispers about that. I think one thing that you would, I've heard people say this too. One thing I think is when you look at this, if you pick out the games that pull the big TV numbers, and start to put them up nationally, right? They're in the upper tiers. So that's what you really look at, right? So you're okay, well, this school over in this conference gets this. We have more eyeballs and we get this. Like,
Correct.
so you know, somebody has to explain that. And I think it's not a dig, it's just fair and it's business, you know. And I think at the end of the day, one of the kind of wild cards about this probably, and as you know, being the Big 12, is Fox, and same with the Big 10. Like, ESPN does have a stranglehold a little bit, but Fox, I mean, you can see it almost by the week. The last two really 2 years particularly, they're really getting in on ESPN. Like the Big Noon. There's a lot of people starting to watch that even aren't Big 12, Big 10 fans. And I think we already know, like, the CBS game of the week, it's almost like must-see TV, whether you Kansas State, Oregon, Clemson, Florida, you know, wherever you are, people want to watch that game, right? Now that's going to be the Big 10 CBS game of the week. But so why can't the money be there, right? Or are we headed somewhere else? I think at some point, if you're Fox and some of these other people, they're going to step in with some money and say, hey, you know, we'll finance that. And to another point, like, you know, I guess I hadn't been paying attention, but you were watching some of the NBA playoffs. The Bleacher Report is streaming games. The MLB and NBA. Have you seen that?
Yep.
I mean, that's out of left field. So there's another person, you know, I don't know who's funding that, but that's another group that's funding streaming. So there's money out there, and there's people willing to put on these big games. So I think the ACC is going to be up against it. I think ESPN is going to be up against it with some transparency. They're going to have to, you know, because they're part of this as well, right?
Right.
And I think, you know, we've seen some of their financial woes and whatnot, but obviously I don't think it's on the college football end, right?
No. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a quick break here, Cory. We'll be right back on the other side of this. We'll hear one word from our sponsor, Synergy Financial Partners, and talk a little more about what Clemson thinks about the SEC or the ACC moving forward. We'll be right back.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to the Big 12 Insider. So, Cory, again, let me just ask you this, just point blank. Does Clemson, and from what you know or understand, does Clemson think that the ACC is going to continue to be around in its current setting in 18 months?
You know, I don't think anybody that covers the program would be able to know that for sure. I think if you were asking my opinion, just what I do know, I think everybody can see that we're headed almost toward like a 2 or 3 conference model.
Right.
And I think behind the scenes of that, speaking with coaches and hearing what you hear about the NCAA, we're headed towards like an NFL type structure, right? The playoff system, they've already set that in motion, which is almost an identical comp of the NFL. So I think that's where we're headed, right?
Yep.
So how does it get there? Man, I mean, I'm not sure, but I think that is where we're headed.
Right. The thing about it is, I mean, it's a lot of schools, you know, that you're having to cipher through. Some schools are going to get left out. Some schools that are already in, per se, the big conferences, I think there's going to be some changes there, Cory. I just don't think that they're going to be able to keep these teams in there like that. It's like, you know, like for instance, Georgia Tech. We love Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's in Atlanta, for crying out loud. But the fan base and everything that goes along with Georgia Tech isn't on the same caliber as a Clemson. It's just not. You would think that it would be, but it's not Georgia. And there's a huge difference when it comes to that. So I think you're right. And I think a lot of people that have said that are right. as far as moving towards this NFL model. I don't know if that's what's best, but I really do think that's kind of where it's going.
I mean, they've already laid the table for it with the 12-team playoff. I mean, that's it's what the NFL is. So now it's just a matter of they've showed us that. So now there's got to be some divisions like the NFL has. So who's going to be where. And the other thing too to note, I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to this, especially outside of our business. You know this. Coaches within the Group of 5, Division II, they are now leaving, even as coordinators and position coaches, to go be analysts.
Yes.
At other programs because of NIL and all of this stuff that does lead up to the big conferences. They're like, okay, well, I'm not going to stay here and fight NIL when I don't have the money and the resources.
Absolutely.
I can go to X school in the Power 5 and get paid the same money to be off the field and live a better life. So it's all of these things lead up to what we're talking about. It's just a matter of how it's going to happen.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great point, and you're right. I mean, I've seen it this year. We've seen it the last couple of years, but the one that got to me, Cory, was UCLA. Yeah. When you see Chip Kelly just say, this is a guy with NFL head coaching experience that just says, I'm done at UCLA. Yeah. I'm not going to coach there. I'll go be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State because they don't have their NIL stuff going on the right way at UCLA. And he can see it. And he's like, I can't compete until you do it right. I'm not going to be here. Man, it's just that part I think is absolutely incredible.
If you go look at the percentage of the budget that they spend on the football program at UCLA versus what it brings in, it's really eye-opening. So that leads you to why he would want to leave. And then, here's Chip Kelly, like he won 8 games the last 2 years or whatever. Like, who's going to step in there and do that with not being able to? He basically had his hands tied there. Correct. And I wish the new coach well and whatnot. But there are other schools. I think the UCLAs are going to have to conform because that is going to pay all the other stuff that they want. You know what I mean? Playing the big games. I think we all know a little bit of what's going on. I mean, I know Clemson filed a declaratory judgment in Pickens County, and they're trying to keep it there, same as Florida State within Florida. I think. Right. I would think from the ACC standpoint, just even having a judge hear this has got to be worrisome to them because once you get inside a courtroom, I mean, just watching murder or lawsuits, we know there's questions start getting asked. Absolutely. You can't leave the courtroom. Like the questions keep coming. So I think there's going to be a lot more questions that we probably don't know about that are going to be rolled out in that courtroom, and I think that's probably got to be worrisome. But you see from A to Z, these, you remember Lorenzo Ward, who used to coach at South Carolina? Mm-hmm. He's coach at East Tennessee State. And, the latest scuttle we've heard is he's leaving to come to be an analyst at Clemson. 5 years ago, that didn't happen. No. Chip Kelly didn't happen. But nope. I think we're going to start seeing it, more and more of these guys, they're going to leave where they can get more money.
Yes. Well, and here's the thing. People think like that all the time, but I always compare. I know it's not the same as a regular job, Cory. It's not, but I always compare it to that. I said, if you could do less at your job, but doing the same thing, but just have less responsibility for the same money or even sometimes more money, who's not doing that? Everybody is going to do that. It doesn't. Sometimes you get past the title part of a job. You get past that when you get to a certain age. And then it becomes more about, okay, how can I take care of me and my family the best way that I can? And that's what people are starting to look at. And you're right. I think we're going to see a heck of a lot more than that from some of these. I mean, we've already seen it from Power 5 jobs. I think we're going to see more of it. I do. This
is how we know what we're talking about is going to happen. We don't know how it's going to happen with the Clemson, the Florida State, or whoever else comes along. There's not enough out there for us to know for sure, but all of the things are out in front of us. The 12-team playoff, coaches are leaving. Like I'll tell you another one too, and this being out in that part of or near that part of the country, like the UTSA head coach. How
Yeah.
long before somebody comes along and offers him a job that's way more than he makes there? He doesn't
Yes.
have to deal with NIL. And, he's vocal about on Twitter about other
All the
coaches
time.
taking his players.
Yes.
Or the North Dakota, South Dakota State coaches that are, those guys, we always talk about Sabins or David Kirby, whatever, Ryan Day, but those guys right there, those are like true pioneer guys that are getting it out of the mud. They
Right.
got great players that are going to the NFL, and you really better have your stuff together when you play them. Like, it's probably going to be interesting to see Colorado when they play. Who they open up with? North Dakota, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
there's
They
a
better
lot
have
of
straps
coaches
on.
out there in that realm, man, that like Toledo, we saw one of their players go in the first round. Well, it's not just that. They got a whole bunch of guys that can play at Toledo, and that's all over the nation. How much longer do those guys stay in their current job? And, you kind of hate it too, because I think that's what creates a lot of parity,
Yeah.
but I think that is where we're headed.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. It was described to me, and I had a conversation a week ago before I get you out of here. And again, we appreciate your time. Is that they described it as the lower level of basically the group of 5 and FCS being the new JUCO. Is that schools are actually, that's what they're doing. Instead of going to the JUCO route, which again, I'm a JUCO product. It's going to kill JUCOs because now you get into Division One. And what would you rather have? Take a chance on a guy that's Division One or a chance on a guy with JUCO, which, look, there's a reason people go to JUCO. Academics, attitude, you've had other problems. You're just not showing up to JUCO because you want to.
Everybody grows up at a different time, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And I think that's kind of what it is. These programs are just getting picked off. Now, it doesn't mean their programs are going to go away, but they're not going to be as competitive as what they once were because of what's happening with all of this. It's frustrating to a lot. It's sad to me. In my crystal ball, and people ask me this all the time, Corey, I say, yes, I want to go back to the way it was. Of course we do, but it's not. So at some point we just have to say this is the way that it is. And if you like college football, which I think or college athletics, if you like it and you want to be a part of it, then sometimes you just got to accept what's going on and try to find the lining.
I think we're probably, to your point, we maybe a second layer or second tier of teams and schools that maybe create farm system's not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like that.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
There's going to have to be something there, right? Because there's always guys in those type of programs. Like you said, everyone matures at a different time. Not everybody comes to college ready to go right then. So there's still going to have to be that, right?
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I don't think the people in the room with all the money are going to let the ACC schools that could be beneficial just die on the vine.
Right.
You cover the Big 12. The Big 12's got they've added schools. So now where are they going to end up, right?
Absolutely. Well, Corey, thank you, man. We appreciate you giving us your, number one, your perspective, and also, more importantly, your time today to come and talk to us a little bit about this. We'll have you back on as things progress. Anytime you can make time for us, we appreciate it.
Yep. Happy to be on. Thank you for having me.
All right. We're going to have one final break here from Synergy Financial Partners, and we'll be right back, and I'll close the show.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
Oh, I know, people. Look, it's frustrating. It is. But I feel like it's important that we get all these different perspectives from different places on exactly what's going on. Look, we had North Carolina. North Carolina kind of gave us their perspective on what they think the ACC is, and they're just kind of sitting back and waiting. Clemson has taken a different approach. Clemson's approach is, hey, We want to know exactly what's behind the peel of the onion. Let's peel back some layers and see what's going on. Is there more money? What does all this language actually mean? Florida State's taking a different approach, and hopefully in the coming days we can get Florida State to come in and kind of give us what their perspective is. But we appreciate everybody being here. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back again tomorrow to bring you more stuff from the Big 12 Insiders. Again, remember to follow, like, comment, and more importantly, hit that notification bell. We're growing. It's a race to 1,000 before football season starts, people. We're almost there. We're almost to 700 subscribers. So remember to do that. Tell your friends, all that good stuff. We will see you guys tomorrow.
This has been a Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.